Hello guys, let's start the book The Magic of Thinking Big. The second thing I'd recommend is that you read Dr. Schindler's great book How to Live 365 Days a Year. Dr. Schindler shows in his book that 3 out of every 4 hospital beds are occupied by people who have ill. Ill means the full form of ill, that is called emotionally induced illness. Imagine 3 out of 4 people who are sick right now would be well if they had learned how to handle their emotions. Dr. Schindler book and developed your program for emotions management. Third, I resolved to live until I die. I went on to explain to this troubled fellow some sound advice I received many years ago from a lawyer friend who had an arrested case of tuberculosis. This friend knew he would have to live a regulated life, but this has not stopped him from practicing law, rearing a fine family, and really enjoy life. My friend, who now is 78 years old, expresses his philosophy in these words: I'm going to live until I die, and I'm not going to get life and death confused. While I am on the earth, I am going to live. Why be only half alive? Every minute a person spends worrying about dying is just 1 minute that fellow might as well have been died. I had to leave at that point because I had to be on a certain plane for Detroit. On the plane, second but much more pleasant experience occurred. After the noise of the takeoff, I heard ticking sound. Rather startled, I glanced at the fellow sitting beside me, for the sound seemed to be coming from him. He smiled a big smile and said, "Oh, it's not a bomb, it's just my heart." I was obviously surprised too, so proceeded to tell me what had happened. Just 21 days before, he had undergone an operation that involved putting a plastic valve in his heart. The ticking sound, he explained, would continue for several months until new tissue had grown over the artificial valve. I asked him what he was going to do. "Oh, he said, I've got big plans. I am going to study law when I get back to Minnesota. Somebody I hope to be in a government work. The doctors tell me I must take it easy for a few months, but after that I will be like new." There you have two ways of meeting health problems. The first fellow, not even sure he had anything organically wrong with him, was worried, depressed, on the road to defeat, wanting somebody to second his motion that he could not go forward. The second individual, after undergoing one of the most difficult operations, was optimistic, eager to something. The difference lay in how they thought toward health. I've had some very direct experience with health executives. I'm a diabetic. Right after I discovered I had this ailment about 5,000 hypodermics ago, I was warned. Diabetes is a physical condition, but the biggest damage results from having negative attitude toward it. Worry about it and you may have real trouble. Naturally, since the discovery of my own diabetes, I have gotten to know a great many other diabetics. Let me tell you about two extremes. One fellow who has many very mild case belongs to the fraternity of living dead, obsessed with the fear of weather. He is usually ridiculously bundled up. He is afraid of infection, so he shuns anybody who has the slightest sniffle. He is afraid of overexertion, so he does almost nothing. He spends most of his mental energy worrying about what might happen. He bores other people telling them how awful his problem really is. His real ailment is not diabetes. Rather, he is a victim of health executives. He has pitted himself into being an invalid. The other extreme is a division manager for a large publishing company. He has a severe case. He takes about 30 times as much insulin as fellow mentioned above. But he is not living to be sick. He is living to enjoy his work and have fun. One day he said to me, "Sure, it is an inconvenience, but is saving. But I am not going to think myself too bad. When I take those shots, I just praise the guys who discovered insulin." A good friend of mine, a widely known college educator, came home from Europe in 1945 minus one arm. Despite his handicap, John is always smiling, always helping others. He is about optimistic as anyone. I know one day he and I had a long talk about his handicap. It's just an arm, he said. Sure, two are better than one, but they just cut off my arm. My spirit is 100% intact. I am really grateful for that. Another amputee friend is an excellent golfer. One day I asked him how he had been able to develop such a near perfect style with just one arm. I mentioned that most golfers with two arms can't do nearly as well. His reply says a lot. Well, it's my experience, he says, that the right attitude and one arm will beat the wrong attitude and two arms every time. Wow, what a line! Well, it's my let's read this line. Well, that the right attitude and one arm will beat the wrong attitude and two arms every time. The right attitude and one arm will beat the wrong attitude and two arms every time. Think about that for a while. It holds true not only on the golf course but in every facet of life. Exactly. 4 things you can do to kick health executives. The best vaccine against the health executives consists of these 4 doses. Refuse to talk about your health. The more you talk about an ailment, even common cold, the worse it seems to get. Talking about bad health is like putting fertilizer on weeds. Besides, talking about your health is a bad habit. It bores people. It makes one appear self-centered, old-maidish. Success-minded people defeat the natural tendencies to talk about their bad health. One may, let me emphasize the word may. One may get a little sympathy, but one does not get respect. Exactly. One may get a little sympathy, but one does not get respect and loyalty by being a chronic complainer. Right? Exactly. Refuse to worry about your health. Second, refuse to worry about your health. Dr. Walter Alvarez, emeritus consultant to the world famous Mayo Clinic, wrote, I always beg worries to exercise some self-control. For instance, when I saw this man, a fellow who was convinced he has a disease, gallbladder, although 8 separate X-rays examinations showed that organ was perfectly normal. I begged him to quit getting his gallbladder X-ray. I have begged hundreds of hurt conscious men to quit getting electrocardiograms made. Third, be genuinely grateful that your health is good as it is. There is an old saying worth repeating often. I felt sorry for myself because I had ragged shoes until I met a man who had no feet. Wow, I repeat this line again. I felt sorry for myself because I had ragged shoes until I met a man who have no feet. Instead of complaining about not feeling good, it is far better to glad you are healthy as you are. Just being grateful for health, you have powerful vaccination against developing new aches, pains and real illness. Fourth, remind yourself it's better to wear out than rest out. It's better to wear out than rest out. Life is yours to enjoy. Don't waste it. Don't pass up living by thinking yourself into hospital bed. Exactly. Second, but you've got to have brains to succeed. Intelligence executives lack brains is common. In fact, it's a common that perhaps as many 95% of the people around us have it varying degrees. Unlike most of the types of executives, people suffering from this particular type of malady, suffering in silence. Not many people will admit openly that they think they lack educated intelligence. Rather, they feel it deep down inside. Most of us make 2 basic errors with respect to intelligence. We underestimate our own brain power. We overestimate the other fellow's brain power. Because of these errors, many people sell themselves short. They fail to tackle challenges situation because it takes a brain. But along comes the fellow who isn't it concerned about intelligence, and he gets the job. What really matters is not how much intelligence you have, but how you use what you have. The thinking that guides your intelligence is much more important than the quantity of your brain power. Let me repeat for this a vital important. The thinking that guides your